She received a letter from an address that no longer existed. A house that had been demolished, flattened, erased from the map. And yet, it kept writing to her. The first letter arrived in a plain, colorless envelope. No stamp, no return address. Only her name, Eleanor Wright, written in careful, familiar handwriting. She almost threw it away. People don't expect mail from buildings. Not from a house that had been demolished 2 years ago. Not from a place that now lived only in dust, grass, and old memories. But curiosity has its own gravity. And so she opened it. Inside was a single sentence. Do you still remember how the floor used to creak beneath your feet? Eleanor froze. Because it was true. The floor had creaked. Always the third step from the hallway. Always late at night. Always when she walked too quietly, trying not to wake the silence. She folded the letter and told herself it was a joke. A cruel prank. Some stranger playing with her past. And yet, something felt strangely familiar. Like a voice she once knew. A week later, another letter arrived. Same envelope. Same handwriting. You used to sit by the window when you felt too full of thoughts. Her fingers trembled. She had sat there, curled into herself, watching the rain stitch gray patterns into the cracked glass, letting the weight of unspoken things settle beside her like old dust. No one knew about that window. No one, except the house. She tried to stop thinking about it. She tried to live in her new apartment, with its bright walls and quiet plumbing and floors that never creaked. But a third letter came. I miss the sound of your keys. And this time, her breath caught in her throat. Because she did not just remember the house. The house remembered her. Eleanor began to feel it during the day, in the quietest moments, like a pressure behind her ribs, like being watched by something that knew her shape. 2 years ago, she had left without looking back. She had packed her boxes, closed the door, let the old place rot in her memory. She never said goodbye. The house had been too small, too quiet, too full of things she didn't know how to name. And now it was nothing. Officially. Bulldozed. Flattened. Forgotten. At least, that's what she'd been told. The fourth letter arrived on a morning when the sky was low and pale. You left your laughter in my walls. Eleanor sat on the floor of her apartment and cried. She didn't cry loud. She cried slowly. The way you cry when the sadness is old. The kind that feels like dust being swept out of your chest. She tried to imagine who could be doing this. A cruel neighbor? An old friend? But there had only ever been one other presence in that house. Thomas Hale. The man who had rented it with her. The man who had laughed in the kitchen and slept in the living room and promised he'd fix the broken fence, one day. The man who never moved out, because he never got the chance. Thomas had vanished quietly. No letters. No memories anyone talked about. Just a slow silence that grew heavier in every room. Eleanor had stayed after that. Too long. And when she finally left, she didn't look back. She didn't mourn. She didn't wait. She simply locked the door and disappeared. Now, the letters felt heavier. Not like messages from wood and nails, but from regret. The fifth letter arrived without any words at all. Only a drawing. A rough sketch of the house. Its crooked roof. Its tired windows. Its broken fence. And in the doorway, 2 small shapes. Side by side. She couldn't breathe. Something inside her shifted. That afternoon, she drove. She didn't check the mirror. Didn't play music. Didn't speak. The road felt longer than it used to. Like time had stretched thin and fragile. When she arrived, the space was almost unrecognizable. Where the house once stood, there was only bare land. Weeds. Stones. A crooked mailbox. Still standing, stubborn and alone. She stepped closer. The air felt full. Not haunted. Just heavy. Like a place that had been holding its breath for years. And there, inside the mailbox, was one final letter. She opened it with shaking hands. You don't have to be afraid of remembering. I was never angry. I only wanted you to know, you were never alone in me. Eleanor closed her eyes. The wind moved through the empty grass. Soft, careful, almost gentle. There were no walls, no roof, no door. But somewhere in the silence, she could feel the shape of what had been, and of who she used to be. She did not speak. She did not cry. She simply stood there and breathed. And for the first time in years, she allowed herself to remember. Not with fear, not with guilt, but with a strange, quiet gratitude. That night, no letter arrived, and none ever came again. But now, when her new floorboards made soft sounds in the dark, she didn't feel watched. She felt answered. Somewhere deep inside, she understood something simple and soft. Sometimes, the places that break us are also the ones that held us together. And we don't have to return to them to finally make peace. We only have to listen.